In the year 2000, a man walked into Blockbuster's headquarters in Dallas, Texas. He had a proposal: buy his struggling little startup for $50 million. The Blockbuster executives laughed and sent him home. That man was Reed Hastings. His startup was Netflix. 20 years later, Netflix is worth over $280 billion. Blockbuster is worth nothing. But here's what the story gets wrong every single time. Blockbuster didn't die because they missed Netflix. They died because, at least twice, they had the cure and threw it away. This is Business Autopsy, case number 1. Official time of death: September 23, 2010. That's the date Blockbuster filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, carrying $900 million in debt. But the real death happened years earlier, in a series of boardroom decisions that were each, on their own, completely rational. That's what makes this case so dangerous. At its peak in 2004, Blockbuster had 9,000 stores worldwide, 60,000 employees, $6 billion in annual revenue. One new store was opening somewhere on Earth every 17 hours. Blockbuster owned Friday nights, and that monopoly on a single night of the week, that's exactly what killed them. Before we get to the fatal decision, let's look at the symptoms. Because no company dies without warning signs. Blockbuster had 3. Symptom 1: the business model people resented. Blockbuster's single biggest revenue line wasn't rentals. It was late fees, $800 million a year. Nearly 16% of total revenue coming directly from customer frustration. Think about that. 1 in every $6 Blockbuster made came from people who forgot to return a tape on time. Customers didn't just dislike late fees. They remembered them. Any business where your revenue depends on your customers' resentment is a business with a clock ticking on the wall. Symptom 2: they confused size for safety. In 2000, when Netflix came knocking with a $50 million price tag, Blockbuster's revenue was $6 billion. Netflix was losing money. Saying no looked, on paper, like the obvious call. But size is not a moat. Direction is. Netflix wasn't selling mail-order DVDs. It was building a recommendation engine, a data machine learning what you wanted to watch before you knew it yourself. Blockbuster looked at Netflix and saw a smaller version of themselves. That was the misread that started everything. Symptom 3: they changed strategy every time it got uncomfortable. Between 2000 and 2007, Blockbuster cycled through 3 different CEOs and at least 4 strategic pivots. Late fees on, late fees off. Online, yes. Online, no. Each flip destroyed the momentum of the one before it. In business, inconsistency is invisible from the inside and fatal from the outside. Now we get to the part of the story almost nobody tells. In 2004, under CEO John Antioco, Blockbuster did something remarkable. They built a direct Netflix competitor. And it was better. Blockbuster Online launched with one feature Netflix couldn't match. You could return your DVD at any physical store and get a new one immediately. No waiting, no mail, instant exchange. The pricing was competitive. The library was bigger. And, critically, no late fees online. Netflix's subscriber growth slowed. Reed Hastings later admitted publicly that Blockbuster Online really scared him. That's not a small admission from the man who eventually won. So what happened? A hedge fund manager named Carl E. Kahn had accumulated a large stake in Blockbuster. He fought Antioco on the online investment at every board meeting. Too expensive, too risky, not core to the business. In 2007, Econ forced Antioco out and brought in a new CEO, Jim Keyes. Keyes made his position clear almost immediately. He said, and I'm quoting directly, "I've been frankly confused by this fascination with Netflix. Netflix doesn't really have or do anything that we can't or don't already do ourselves." Within months, the Blockbuster online budget was cut by 75%. The in-store exchange program, the one feature that actually terrified Netflix, was eliminated. In a single boardroom decision, they dismantled the only weapon that was working. Not because they didn't have the technology, not because they didn't have the stores, not because they didn't have the money. Because the people controlling the money didn't believe the threat was real. Blockbuster's fall didn't just end a company. It triggered a chain reaction that still shapes what you watch tonight. Hollywood studios had spent 2 decades treating Blockbuster as a guaranteed revenue floor. When 9,000 stores started closing, they panicked. They needed new distribution, fast. This is why Netflix was able to negotiate streaming rights so cheaply between 2007 and 2012. The studios were desperate, and Netflix was buying. Those cheap licensing deals are what built Netflix's content library. Without Blockbuster's collapse, there is no Netflix streaming dominance. The victim created the conditions for the predator to win. And one last thing. There is still exactly one Blockbuster left on Earth. In Bend, Oregon. It's become a tourist destination, a cultural monument, and in an age when algorithms decide everything you watch, strangely, a symbol of choosing for yourself. 3 things you can take from this today. 1. If your biggest revenue line makes your customers angry, that line is not an asset. It's a countdown timer. The company that disrupts you will make your customers' resentment their sales pitch. Blockbuster's late fees were Netflix's first billboard. 2. When a competitor's product genuinely scares your leadership, that's not a signal to retreat. That's the signal to accelerate. Blockbuster Online scared Netflix. That was the moment to go all in. Instead, they cut the budget. In most business deaths, the dying company holds the winning card at least once and plays it wrong. 3. Incumbents rarely lose because they lack resources. They lose because they're optimizing for yesterday's game while the market moves to a new one. Blockbuster was perfecting the rental experience at the exact moment convenience became the only metric that mattered. You cannot win a game you've decided isn't being played. Here's what I want to leave you with. It's 2004. You are the CEO of Blockbuster. You have $6 billion in revenue, stores in every major city on Earth, and a digital competitor with 1 million subscribers. Who is losing money? What do? Option A. Use your 9,000 physical stores as a distribution weapon and build a hybrid model Netflix can never replicate. Option B. Acquire Netflix now, before it's too late, even at a higher price. Option C. Something else entirely. Tell me in the comments. I'll pin the most interesting answer. Let's see who thinks like a CEO.